Cronos: The New Dawn is the latest survival horror game released on February 6, 2025, developed by Bloober Team, the studio also known for the Silent Hill 2 remake. The game carries a grim tone, drawing inspiration from Dead Space and Resident Evil, but it's wrapped in the political atmosphere of 1980s Poland. With a unique premise, Cronos: The New Dawn tells the story of a mysterious plague called the Change that turns people into horrifying monsters known as Orphans. What sets it apart is the core mechanic. You control an agent called the Traveler, sent into the past to collect essences, the souls of those who died to the plague. But every essence taken slowly damages his mind as the memories of the dead seep into him. In this video, we'll cover the full storyline of Cronos: The New Dawn, from the Traveler's first mission all the way to the major secret behind Project Cronos, Part 1.
The game begins when a strange memory appears and a ship falls from nowhere. The Traveler, let's call him T, is unconscious. A system voice is heard and helps him recover. After a few questions, T manages to break free, opens a door, and sees a city in Poland ruined by the plague. The main mission appears: find T's predecessor, ND-3500. T explores the area and discovers many notes describing how terrifying the plague is. Upon reaching the generator room, T searches for components to power the machine so the gate to the city can open. He finds the components, but is blocked by terrifying creatures called Orphans. Think of them as aliens. He defeats them, installs the components, and the gate opens. Along the way, T comes across many voice messages. We'll stay focused on the journey. The game truly begins when T finds ND-3500 dead. The mission data has been neatly stored. One important name emerges: Edward Whisnieski. T copies the coordinates, says his goodbyes, and is determined to finish the mission.
The mission now changes: find Edward. Upon arriving at the coordinates, something is off. A dimensional rift that makes ruins float. An anomaly. T passes many obstacles, fighting aliens, solving puzzles, and finally reaching the target point. He performs a calling procedure and is transported to a room with a rock music vibe. T needs more data about Edward. After obtaining it, he hears a woman calling Edward's name and moves immediately. At an old woman's home, he's told her child was kidnapped by Edward, and she asks T to bring the child back. The journey continues. T meets a young woman, likely the old woman's daughter, who is setting up lights while calling for Edward. He interrogates her. Soon, Edward appears and accuses T of being part of a government conspiracy. Angela, fed up, leaves Edward and joins T. T then extracts Edward's memories. A clue appears, pointing to an industrial zone, back to the earlier frequency rift. The new target: head of terminal. On the way, T is once again tied up with puzzles, alien fights, and even a mini-boss. At a location we'll call the church, T witnesses a fragment of Edward's memory. A steel plant is conducting experiments on humans. Edward is frightened because he's constantly being watched. T continues to the head of terminal and performs an extraction, ascendance. We see an all-red mindscape, Edward's mind being extracted, yet still conscious. T invites Edward to join the collective. Edward refuses and claims he knows about the plague, the change. He says only Arthur believes people like T exist. Just as Edward is about to explain further, the extraction is disrupted. T senses something is wrong, and the process goes haywire. Back in the real world, T regains consciousness with the system's help. He heads to the terminal and meets another traveler who introduces himself as the Warden. He says the collective assigned him to watch over travelers. T asks him to repair the terminal because something is blocking it. The Warden agrees and somehow gets it back to normal. He then tells T to resume collecting essences and hands him a weapon. New task: retrieve the essence of Arthur Baker. T confirms Arthur's coordinates at Dive 11. The Warden is shocked because that's the steel plant. T explains the source is Edward. The Warden is surprised and impressed that T can speak with someone's essence. He shows the way to the steel plant and warns of great danger. When asked, the Warden admits he has been there for centuries and also senses that something is off just when he thought everything was coming to an end. Along the way, T finds a fragment of Edward's memory, stating that Gabriel is unwell and may be infected by the plague. T faces many obstacles: steel-like aliens, powerful enemies, and even discovers another traveler who has perished. When arriving at the steel plant, T meets a woman named Veronica Kaminsky, who claims to be a doctor and says she only wants to get out. This turns out to be a lie. Suddenly, Arthur's voice comes through, stating he's in the foreman's room. Veronica says she's with a traveler, then runs off. T heads to the foreman's room and finds Arthur watching over his brother, Gabriel, who is infected. Arthur blames T because when the traveler arrived, Gabriel saw him. Arthur begs T to save Gabriel, but T firmly states that the mission target is Arthur, not Gabriel. Arthur becomes angry and shows a painting suspected to be the trigger for the chaos. T reels upon seeing it. Arthur tries to kill himself, but T shoots his hand and extracts his mind. A memory appears of a traveler arriving before the plague spread. Back in the present, T must return to the terminal. On the way back, T enters a bar and finds the Warden already inside. T questions everything. Aren't they supposed to save humanity? Is all of this trivial to the Warden? The Warden replies, "With immortality, what counts as trivial? Not a single second is wasted." In his view, humans couldn't live without us. T asks in return, are humans merely an anomaly to him? The Warden says yes, then adds that he shut down the terminal to replace the cables. Repairs complete, T performs ascendance again. The Warden warns that the terminal isn't fully stable yet, but it's still useful for probing memories and pointing to the next target. The terminal is limited and unstable, so T must be patient. The process begins. During the extraction, Arthur again attempts suicide and asks whether travelers caused Gabriel's infection. T emphasizes that the plague is not the travelers' doing. Arthur explains, Gabriel was searching for missing workers and found one of them dying. A traveler was present. Soon after, doctors and scientists arrived. In no time, the plant turned into a quarantine prison and no one cared about Gabriel. Even a doctor named Zephyr only pretended to be concerned and cared more about his research. T asks Arthur to focus, explain the doctors and the alien/traveler situation. He suggests Arthur is protecting himself from fear. Feeling labeled a coward, Arthur vows not to run anymore and fires a pistol. Ascendance ends.
And that's the beginning of the traveler's journey in 1980s Poland. The crash, the trail of ND-3500, the rise of the Orphans, the Anomaly, and the name Edward Whisnieski. All of it is just the prologue. We'll wrap it here for Cronos: The New Dawn Full Story Part 1. In Part 2, we'll head into Dive 11, the steel plant, dig into the Warden's role, and unravel the big secret behind Project Cronos and the true origin of the change. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with your survival horror friends. Drop your theories in the comments. Is the change man-made, or is something darker at work? See you in Part 2.